Welcome back to the Resonant Body, a three-part podcast series where we explore the profound relationships between subtle energy, whole person healing, and intentional self-care. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Greenwell, and today we're diving into the quantum realm, into the dynamic, flowing field of energy that surrounds and informs our physical body. In this second episode, we're exploring quantum change, how the body's energetic architecture, including the chakras, the hara line, and the biofield, can be tuned, aligned, and regenerated through intentional touch, focused energy, and conscious awareness. And with me once again is Dr. Christina Ross, a biophysicist and energy medicine pioneer whose work bridges scientific inquiry and vibrational healing. Hello, Christina. Thank you so much for coming back for part two.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad to be back.
So I just want to give you a little background about Christina before we dive further, in case you didn't listen to the first segment. And if you didn't, I invite you to go back and find that episode. So Dr. Christina Ross is a board-certified polarity practitioner, registered polarity educator, and she holds dual bachelor degrees in psychology and physics from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. She earned her PhD in energy medicine from Akamai University, where her dissertation focused on the effects of low-frequency pulsed electromagnetic field therapy on inflammation, immune function, and bio-pain markers. Dr. Ross served as a biophysicist, at Wake Forest School of Medicine from 2009 to 2021. And she investigated how PEMF modulates, all these beautiful words, cell signaling and communication, how they were communicating. And she's currently consulting on the NIH R01 clinical trial with Wake Forest Baptist Health, studying the effects of PEMF on interstitial cystitis and painful bladder disease. Known for her ability to synthesize complex science with practical healing tools, we know now from all that, all those deep words, Dr. Ross brings a visionary perspective to energy medicine, helping people understand how their biology and their biofield are inextricably connected. And this leads us to our conversation today, and I'm so excited to be talking about quantum, because a lot of people kind of shy away. You go quantum physics, quantum topics, and it is just so incredible to be able to have these conversations and to understand the power in a scientific way, which has always been elusive for those people who are in the chemistry, biology area. So before we start, Christina, what tea did you put into your mug?
Well, today I am drinking a puka tea. Puka is a Hindi word for superior or outstanding. The flavor is peppermint and licorice. Now, these two herbs uh, are really helpful in um, they're helpful in immune function. They're helpful in gastroenterology. The peppermint can treat menstrual cramps, bloating, gas, also headaches associated with menstrual periods. The peppermint can improve memory, focus, and digestion. The licorice soothes everything from sore throats to heartburn, stomach ulcers, and can reduce inflammation as well. And I find it really delicious. You think
Mm-hmm.
licorice, I'm not a licorice fan, but when you mix it with the peppermint, it balances the flavor of both herbs, which I really like.
Mm-hmm. And your mug, what's on your mug?
So my mug, my daughter gave to me when she was married. She had a reception here in Valley Crucis at the Lazy Bear Lodge. And I just love this bear. He's sleeping on a log. And every time I drink from this mug, it reminds me that my daughter married this wonderful man 18 years ago and decided to have their wedding up here near where we live. So it's a joy to see it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. So for those people that are listening rather than watching, it is a beautiful ceramic mug,
Hmm.
and it looks like grays whites and blues?
It's forest green with cream. I don't know if that's showing on the video.
Okay, yep.
And then there's the trees from up here in the mountains. And then a bear. We have black bears around here all the time, so they're native.
So I'm getting Christina to talk about her mug because what we choose to put our tea into makes as big a difference as the herbs that we choose to play with. And so when you have that favorite mug, it is a cup of warmth, it's a cup of love. It has memories that go with it that can lift us up. And when we're choosing mugs or cups that just really don't have any attachment to us, it changes the way we feel about what we're drinking. And I just wanted to bring that forward because you could just tell by the way you're talking about it, the way you hold it, and what it really holds as memory for you is so beautiful and full of love. So now the idea of peppermint and licorice together, I love that. And licorice, I agree with you. Licorice by itself, a lot of people when I'm at the markets will say the licorice, it's not their favorite thing, but it does combine really beautifully with so many other things. And that's one of the key concepts I like to bring forward from the Cape Breton Tea Company is how you play with herbs, not medicinally how you're going to say, please fix this, but how you bring them together and into something that's so enjoyable and that lift up goes to the way that you're feeling, which is you're lifting up with love and companionship rather than saying, I can't sleep, please fix me. And that's a different way of having a conversation with the herbs.
Yes, that's an important point.
So, and as we're going into quantum conversations and intention, this is all part of it. And this is how it works. So I'm going to bring in now the tea that I chose, which is Island Vitality. And this one I just love because it asked me to pause this tea. And I can't describe it any better than that. It just says, take a moment. And it is Island Vitality. So when you think of island, you're thinking water, you're thinking trees, you're thinking isolation, calm, quiet. There is that piece to it. But then there's this other part. It's the color of it is often a gray. Sometimes it's a very pale bluey purple. This depends on how the mix comes together. But sometimes it comes as gray, and you don't very often see gray tea, which can be a little bit odd. But when you go to sip it, the color matches the flavor, which is really interesting as well. We don't think of gray in that way. I wanted to bring forward, this one is full of all kinds of ingredients. I'm just going to hold up the package. It's a green tea with echinacea, and apple, strawberry, blackberry, holy basil leaves, rosehip, hibiscus, blue pea flower, blue cornflower, chamomile, hawthorn fruit, cranberry, honeybush rose, safflower petals, vanilla. Lots more than what you have in yours, but bring those two together. These ones have other relationships going on. But I said all that because sometimes people don't realize the combinations of those pieces coming together can be so profound. And so the intention on this is be inspired by the power of nature that surrounds you, rest and release into healing. Mm-hmm. And you brought that in with the blend you chose and also with the mug. And we have this possibility here. So as you're listening, this is your opportunity to set your intention when you listen to this podcast and get into the quantum physics, but to think about how that's going to promote your healing as we go along. So I'm going to highlight rosehip. This is for sacral and heart chakras, the lower abdomen and then into your heart center. And rosehip holds the frequency for emotional strength and resiliency. It supports circulation and release and helps us to soften old patterns to open to renewal. So as you're listening and you're thinking about all the ideas Christina's going to be bringing forward, this is going to have new ideas for you to think about and maybe some old things you can say, that does not serve me any longer. I'm going to let it go. And as we move to cranberry, cranberry is a symbol of cleansing and boundary setting. It energizes the lower chakras. So I did mention sacral already, but you would have you'd have your root chakra, then there's the sacral, and then solar plexus. So all into the organs and bringing those together in a harmony. And it promotes a dynamic sense of flow. It invites us to stay fluid in our healing, especially as we're working with the energy centers and the biofield. So the conversations we're having today. So as we guide you into this conversation, open your eyes to some new ideas, different ways of thinking about things. Consider in your life where you might want those same transitions to be happening. You'll be grounded, you'll be vibrant, and open to inspiration. So Christina, thank you for that lovely conversation about tea. I'm holding up my PEI mug, Prince Edward Island, which has all of the dirt from PEI into the paint. And
Oh, cool.
cheers.
Cool. Cheers.
Oh, okay. So we've said quantum and we talked about quantum change. Let's dive into the conversation from there and look at what it means for energy medicine and healing when we're talking about quantum change.
Okay, so in order to understand quantum change, it's important to understand that the human biofield is a complex system of energy fields that move and flow into multi-dimensional patterns. Okay, in polarity therapy, we describe these field patterns as flowing in north-south currents, east-west currents, spiral currents, and helical patterns that all overlap. This overlapping of energy fields is multidimensional. Okay, what that means is information flowing in and out of the system can only be processed, emitted, or received through quantum field dynamics. Otherwise, it would get all jumbled up. One minute shift in the field, body, mind, spirit, affects the entire system from the smallest molecule in the body to the highest level chakra field.
I love it. Just that piece, one tiny shift. So we already had one tiny shift with herbs. We
Right.
had one tiny shift with intentions. We had one tiny shift with a sip. And we're
Mhm.
offering the opportunity for people to heal while they listen. So it doesn't take very much for
Right.
this to happen. Yeah, I love that. All right. So if people are thinking about then they've been back at the structure and they've been back at physically how we're changing, and you mentioned then you've got spirit, body, mind, spirit. So we've got the spirit projecting from the outside, working its way in, and then we have this physical that goes from the inside with emotions and mental processes going out. Can you just bring a little bit more to that idea for people to understand that it's not just from that physical body?
Right. So in polarity therapy and other modalities, not just polarity, there's an understanding that source becomes form. Okay. Now in physics, this is identified as the Higgs boson. How do you go from energy to matter? But we're bigger than our combination of our molecules and our physical body. So we understand how the energy it it's almost like a transformer, how it steps down from source, from all that is, into different segments to create matter. Okay, and we do it from an energy field dynamic. So we understand the chakras as they apply to the hara line and the central core of the field. So we're connected from between heaven and earth uh, through an ultrasonic core. That's what we call it in polarity. Some modalities, like Barbara Brennan, describe it as a hara line function. Okay, so everything comes from the core and moves out to create the field and matter. So much like the Earth's iron core produces a magnetic field around the planet to protect it and provide guidance systems for the animals, the core operations of the human biofield protect it from low frequency energy. It also provides guidance for cells, tissues, and organs to regenerate. This central energy flows from the center line of the being through the ultrasonic core hora line outward to form a toroidal pattern. Okay, if you think about the Earth's magnetic field, there's a field that goes out from the center back around and comes from the North Pole to the South Pole. Ours is very similar. It goes out the chakra, the sacral chakra, excuse me, the crown chakra, all the way around the body and back into the root chakra. So we have this protective energy shield. Now, what this means for energetic realignment is that if energy medicine practitioners modulate one area of this field, whether you're working with the chakras, marma points, nadi points, oval fields, they will all shift in unison to respond to the modulation. So the practitioner sets his or her boundaries, they ground themselves, and they provide a template for our energy field to resonate at a harmonic frequency. Okay. Disease is noise in the system, and that is based on dysfunction of all the separate parts of the human being, where we're talking molecules and cells, tissues, organs, or we're talking about chakras, marma points, nadi points. All these resonate together to either move the body, mind, and spirit towards high functioning health or low functioning disease. Okay, that's because quantum fields are everything, everywhere, all at once. Push or pull on one part, and the entire system shifts.
I was thinking as you were describing that, if you think about when people go to see the orchestra and they're doing their warm up, and everybody's working by themselves to make sure they're in tune, they've got the right key, they're going through maybe a hard part of the music that they just want to make sure they have those notes down, and it sounds like this mass confusion. And that's the disharmony piece where the frequency drops low, as you're describing for the body. But then when the conductor lifts his hands and that gesture of we are now one happens, and then the orchestra starts to play, and all of a sudden those notes become music, that's the part where the frequency goes up for the body. And so
Right.
I just wanted to give that picture to people so that they could realize how when we start to try to isolate and do these things individually, we create this disharmony, and then how it's that one impetus, that one spark that can pull everything back together like a thread and bring it into alignment.
That's a great analogy, Michelle. And what modern medicine and Western medicine has done is just examine all the little parts and pieces of the human. And what they're not quite understanding is that the human being is a holistic system. And you can't just study the cells or you can't just study the organs and understand the whole system. And if you're like me, when Maestro raises his or her wand and the symphony comes together, I get, well, we call it chicken skin in the South, goosebumps, whatever you want to call it. And this resonates well with my being, not just my body, but my energy field when that music aligns. And this is what energy medicine can do. It creates the environment where all the systems harmonize and come together to create health and wellness. So I really like your analogy.
And as you were describing that piece, I was thinking about the feeling that someone has as they're sitting in the audience and that music comes towards them. But then if you think about how much bigger that music goes, so it becomes outside the theater, somebody's in the waiting area and the music is hitting them there, and just how that waves come out. And that's how, when we're in harmony, that's how we radiate out to other people. And we get those comments that, oh, your energy is always so high or big or
Mhm.
vibrant or whatever the comment is. And it's because that harmony is sitting there. And it's that we didn't have to do anything extra except to keep the harmony going. And then those people that don't have that harmony, you can just feel it just sucks in. Some
Right.
of them suck in that extra energy trying to find the harmony, but that same orchestra isn't playing for them.
Right. And that's why a lot of empaths and healers don't like being in crowds because that it's difficult to keep that harmony when there's so many different notes being played, creating noise. So again, I really like your analogy.
Keep getting these pictures today. I was just thinking about in the office and when people are working on projects and they have it's the same thing in that you have these core pieces that everybody's got their part that they play. But if everybody isn't tuned to the final product of what it's supposed to look like or how it's supposed to feel, then you can get all of the dissonance that comes from trying to find the right way to put all those pieces together. And it happens in work, it happens in families, it
Mhm.
happens in school systems. And so that's where setting the intention in the tea at the beginning brings around an idea of everybody collecting into that resonance. And the same happens with the quantum work of the healers, being able to bring that resonance in. Anyway, so I had to explain that because it was this picture just kept coming into my mind. So if we're looking at the body in a much bigger way, let's dive into a little bit more about the chakras and the hara line. Because for some people, they've heard those words. It's chakras kind of a little bit more, especially if people have done yoga. But hara line, that's one that doesn't get said very often unless you do study Barbara Brennan's work. And what the function of the biofield is with those special energy systems. So should we start with chakras?
If you want. Well, so the chakras are considered, well, let's talk about their background. They came from Ayurvedic medicine, but they're also talked about in um, traditional Chinese medicine, um, the shamanic medicine or shamanic treatments. It's also talked about in traditional Northern African medicine. And the the chakras are considered wheels of life. Okay, so if you think of like a tornado looking structure that is embedded in the hara line or the ultrasonic core, it reaches out from the body, from basically the spine, and it resonates with different frequencies and different um, constructs of the human being. So, for instance, the earth chakra connects us with our tribe or our people. And so if you're feeling disconnected from your family, there is going to be some incoherence in your root chakra. And this is difficult because we've known for many, many years that when we're disconnected from our family, it could ultimately affect our survival on earth. When you have people around you, you have support for food, clothing, and shelter. Okay, the same can be said for the heart chakra, where your connection between the solid material elements of sacral and solar plexus becomes more etherical in the throat chakra and the third eye and the crown chakra. So it's kind of like the connecting chakra between the earth, the human being, and the emotional and psychological and spiritual aspects. So the heart chakra is really important to keep balanced. That's why when it gets out of balance, a lot of heart attacks happen. And there's two types. You can have a blood clot or you can have an electrical short circuit. But heart disease is one of the number one dysfunctional problems in the world. And that's because humans can get really disconnected between their physical being and their spiritual, emotional, and psychological being. Okay. And when you cut that off, you cut off energy flow to the heart chakra. And that's why it shuts down. The electrical part of it shuts down, or the blood doesn't flow through it correctly. And that would be my guess from an energy medicine standpoint why there's so much heart disease. Never mind the fact that we don't eat healthy and we don't think healthy thoughts and we don't do it. We are supposed to do to remain healthy. It's just a matter of a disconnect between the physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual bodies. Okay. Um, I did want to say that when you're advanced, uh, when you're spiritually advanced from your ultrasonic core, the masters, ascended masters like Christ, Buddha, Krishna, and Mother Mary can have an energy field that expands like 26 feet, approximately 8 meters in diameter. Okay. Now, these ascended masters had very um, high frequency fields, and people would just push to get close enough to these ascended masters. I mean, they would just let me touch the hem of their garment. Just let me get close enough to be in their field. They didn't say it like that, but this closeness enabled them to heal just by being in the presence of these beings, because their energy fields were so harmonically resonant and coherent that just being in their presence could heal someone. And when you were talking about people being saying things like, oh, I just love being about around this person. They just make me feel good. They really connect positively. I don't feel judged or anything around them. I just love being around them. Well, this was the same type of harmonic energy that ascended masters. And you'll know when you are in the presence of an enlightened being. And there are some on planet Earth right now that people just flock to them, that they just want to be in their presence. And the Dalai Lama is one of them, and there's other people. And so know that when these people pass, that their field is harmonic and that it was just their time to leave. They don't die of disease or things like that. So that's a very long-winded explanation for the chakras.
It's interesting because you were reminded me of Tai Chi, because one of the principles in Tai Chi that we're trying to achieve is move the energy from that lower chakra area, so root and sacral being where we store energy. That's where our vitality is sitting. And when we're working with different kinds of actions, we're trying to move that energy up the heart line, through the heart chakra, up to, which would be called the middle dantian, lower dantian
Right.
being sacral chakra, up to the base of the skull, which would be your higher dantian. But many people are blocked in the center of their back. And so people doing Tai Chi will often experience between the shoulder blades a lot of discomfort or soreness while they're doing Tai Chi, because that flow is not there. So there's a block. They associate it with muscle, um, not realizing that it's this energy flow piece. But when we work together in a class setting and we have all of us working towards that, it's much easier to open that space up. And we have done measurements to see how far out the field is after we finish Tai Chi, and we're well beyond the building that we're in, which
Nice.
is so beautiful to know that we worked together collectively to create this beautiful open field. And then
Hmm.
we can all walk home knowing that that field can stay open as long as we continue to cultivate within it. Um,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to bring that visual to people, because I know I have lots of people who say, well, I do my yoga practice at home by myself, or I like to do this by myself. And it's lovely, but there is this connection and empowerment when these fields can connect to each other and expand and open. And it takes
Yeah.
some of the effort out of our individual activities.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Okay, so if the chakras then we've got going up the body, and we've talked about those, then you want to expand that heart line a little bit more.
Right. So a lot of people don't realize that above the crown chakra, the seventh chakra, there are chakras 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that connects us to the universe. And advanced beings, highly enlightened beings, will often work globally, universally, I mean, through the solar system that will affect the way that the planets and even our Milky Way galaxy um, energetically supports our mind, body, and spirit. Now, I would, as a energy medicine practitioner, encourage work with your physical embedded chakras before I get way up there. But if you feel connected to the universe and want to work from that space, that's great. But once your chakras 1 through 7 are open and operating well and energy is flowing, it's a lot easier to move out, to move globally. And I've begun working globally through my third eye and my crown chakra. I put peaceful, healing energy. I send it out to planet Earth as a whole, and I just envelop it with kind of a pink cloud or whatever you find peaceful, a glowing light to help with all the unsettling energies that are going on in the world right now. And we can not always be where the trauma is or donate money to where the trauma is, but we can certainly provide healing energy to this planet. And we can also connect the other planets in our solar system, because right now Saturn and Neptune are creating a lot of chaos in our world. And we can just send peaceful light, peaceful love into the planet through those higher chakras. And we can do this with a 10, 15-minute meditation. It doesn't take long and it doesn't drain you. It makes me feel a lot more energetic knowing I'm doing something and I have this way of giving to my fellow human beings globally. Okay, so I would certainly encourage educating oneself through the throat chakra, speaking our truth, the third eye chakra, sending our psychic ability out into the world, and our crown chakra, connecting it with our solar system. I mean, we are empowered beings. We have a lot more power than we realize. And once we realize it, we can use it for the benefit of all humans.
Mhm. That's where, when I first learned therapeutic touch, and I was doing Tai Chi, but I had several people who did therapeutic touch that were in the group. And then when we started to converse about that and how close we were with the activities we were doing, languaging was different. But then
Mhm.
when we realized we're really talking the same thing, but the skills that I got in therapeutic touch to be able to instantly help someone distantly. And now,
Yes.
particularly when you don't live close to family and something happens and okay, if I sit and I do a meditation or I do a healing session for that person and send it their way, which is quantum, then we
Right.
have this ability
Entanglement.
to, exactly, and we
Right.
have this opportunity to make an impact even though we can't be right there. And so I find sometimes it's even more powerful because we don't get tangled up in the physical aspects of it,
Exactly.
which makes it easier. And I just wanted to bring that forward for people. And one experience I had was on one of the conferences I was at, our bus ended up getting stopped in traffic because of a car accident that had happened. And instantly, it was nothing to be able to set up, to be able to support the first responders that were working, the people involved, and just create calm in that chaos from a distance, and we were
Right.
sitting there. There was nothing else we could do. And that opportunity to know that you could make a difference for someone else, even though you couldn't be close at hand and they didn't need any extra people to be around.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the perfect scenario. I'm not in the way, but I'm helping. I
Mm-hmm.
can certainly help the first responders and help calm those in the accident and bless them with healing and what they need to return to
Mm-hmm.
where they were before the accident. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's great.
Mm-hmm. And then that brings to mind, I'm just, as we're going, Christina, there's all these things that keep wanting to be said. So that takes people to when you offer, somebody comes to you and they want to chat. And so you say, let's sit down, have a cup of tea, and let's talk about it. So first of all, the cup of tea is calming the nervous system. Second part is you're sitting down, you're face to face, you have this nice communication that can happen. But the next part is when we're thinking about this quantum approach, we can be grounding, we can be holding the space, we can be compassionate, but we don't have to take anything in.
Exactly.
And then we can actually provide the energy they need within their field to be able to cope with and deal with whatever it is that they wanted to talk about or needed support with. And so I just wanted to bring that picture forward because I think sometimes we feel like if we can't put the Band-Aid on it, what good is it going to be? Except to maybe offer some baking. Please have something to eat, right?
Yes. And I think it's important to know for people that might be concerned, what if I sit down with somebody that has low energy or that is suffering from cancer or neurodegenerative disease or whatever? Is that going to affect me because I'm so open? And I think it's worth repeating that there's a law in physics of superposition that when you have a harmonic, coherent field, a wave, and you meet a noise-based, incoherent, diseased field, the harmonic wave will override the noise every time. That the system is set up, well, let's talk about planet Earth, so that the body always is looking to heal itself and it will seek out harmony over disharmony every time. And that if you're sitting with a cup of tea and listening and being supportive, your harmonic field will protect you from any disharmony coming your way. Just like we talked about the Earth's magnetic field, protects it from meteors or whatever's hitting it. That, as above, so below. We're designed to be healthy and emit healthy frequencies. So you have the power to stay healthy and stay strong and listen and be supportive.
I'm thinking about we have the right to be healthy and we have the formula to be healthy. So then you think about you have to work awfully hard to be unhealthy,
Right.
right? And we're always thinking about, oh, it's such hard work to eat well, get enough rest, all the checklist. But if you start to think about that's the easy part. The hard part is how we put the dissonance in and how we break down the patterns and how we find these ways to lower our frequencies. That's the hard part, but we engage in it for some reason rather than going the easy route.
I agree. And I think number one, we need to be self-aware. We get so caught up in the day-to-day. We don't pay enough attention to what's going on with us. How are we reacting or overreacting to our environment? How can we be one and be centered and grounded and be at peace, even in the midst of chaos? We have this power. You have to be self-aware enough to realize that you don't want to be sucked in to what's going on. Observe, but don't absorb. This is a good mantra to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we did mention that compassionate piece because you have empathy and sympathy. And both of those can seem like you're supporting and helping, but you're taking that energy in. When you're
Correct.
compassionate, you're providing the action and the power for the person to be empowered to make their changes. And that energy is going out rather than pulling it in. I know
Mhm.
for empaths that can be really difficult because they're sensing so much. But
Correct.
it's when you hold that field open and bigger that it's easy then to send it back. It
That's
doesn't
right.
work.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember, it overrides the noise. That's the way physics works. That's the way nature works.
And isn't it lovely to think about that same piece of if we step into the I'm thinking of uh, Finding Nemo and the ocean scene where the turtles all get into the flow of the ocean.
Hmm.
So if we are thinking about we want to be in flow with peace, we want to be
Yes.
in flow with the resonance that is lifting everyone up, we can choose to just get onto the flow
Yes.
rather than listening to the news, buying into the propaganda, thinking that everything we're hearing is real and true, and but bringing us this chaos. Instead, we can actually say, no, I'm going to get on that bandwagon for peace, and I'm going. That's where I'm going to flow. And
Absolutely.
make that choice.
And it makes everybody stronger when we work in unison like that.
Hmm. Hmm. And as I'm saying that and describing that flow of water, I'm sure people can feel. You can feel the energy of how that is, and it's not hard, but you can feel the hardness of turning the TV or the news on,
Yeah.
listen, listening, and what just exactly how the body responds to that. You can feel it come back in and impact you, but that flow, you can feel yourself kind of pull out. I
Yes.
just wanted to bring that sensory piece to people because I think so many people have shut down that they can't feel that field, and to realize that they could if they started paying attention to it.
And remember too that shutting down is not life enhancing. That the fear creates an environment where your cells conserve energy. They don't split and proliferate and regenerate tissues. It just conserves its energy and waits for the attack, for fight or flight. But health involves a flow of energy where the cells, tissues, organs all realize that they're in a beneficial environment and they proliferate and they heal and they regenerate. And that's a healthy state of being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you for that. All right. So we've talked then about the chakras and the heart line, and you've talked about the ultrasonic core as being that title as well, and connecting the space for deep energetic alignments. We've dove into that. So I think we're at the place of going to the polarity therapy and other practices. I'm not versed in polarity therapy, so do you want to share a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so polarity therapy is a multimodality um, brainchild of a man named Dr. Randolph Stone. And this about 100 years ago, he and his wife decided that they wanted to travel the world and see which therapies or modalities have been around the longest because they felt like if we understood therapies that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, they've been time tested and they must work or people would have gotten rid of them. So first they went to the Far East, to India, and they spent years learning Ayurvedic medicine. And that's pretty much the core of polarity therapy and how herbs and just the science of life helps keep a human being healthy. And I think an Ayurvedic practitioner, I think it's like 10 years study or something like that to be an Ayurvedic doctor. And so Dr. Stone visited with all the medicine people, and his wife took copious notes. It was unbelievable how they drew the energy field and chakras and different points of understanding. Then they moved to the Far East and studied traditional Chinese medicine, and they understood the grid of acupuncture and how the marma and nadi points all intersect, and how the marmas were, I guess, more like freeways and the nadis were more like roads, but everywhere you put a needle, you can open up and move energy through the field. Of course, they studied herbs and they studied different tinctures and they took notes on that. Then they went to the North African Hermetic medicine people, where they Hermeticism is it's really interesting. It's about how the mind controls your health and wellness. You know, all is the mind, and the um, the work that Hermeticism and the ancient Egyptians understood many thousands of years ago. And the fourth part of polarity therapy is shamanism and how we're connected to the land and we're connected to the animals, and together in harmony produces the best results for the entire system, the earth. And Mother Earth is alive and she has a heartbeat and a pulse, and the animals are sacred, and we don't destroy what we live in, we enhance it. And I think the most important thing about polarity therapy is that there's poles positive and negative poles in the body that when healthy, energy flows through very easily. And that when energy gets stuck or stagnant, that's where pain and inflammation and disease can set in. And as a polarity practitioner, we work to keep these poles, and there's very tiny poles reflected in the bigger body poles. You work with these different positive and negative poles to get the energy to flow. Um, Basically, as a energy medicine practitioner or any kind of modality, in my opinion, as a practitioner, you are a facilitator of someone being able to heal themselves. I don't necessarily call myself a healer, even though that I think that's fine. The patient, or excuse me, the client heals themselves when they're ready to own their power, to become a healthy, vital human being. They will release whatever's causing this energy flow to be stuck. And that can be everything from I don't like the way I eat, I don't like the way I think, I don't like the way I allow my environment to control my mind and spirit, to I'm ready to just get rid of stuff I've been holding onto from my childhood. And this is real important to consciously be aware. A lot of times we just compress or push down feelings that we don't like to feel because it brings trauma. And to let go of that means a lot of work and even sometimes forgiveness that we don't want to go there. And if you keep it down, if you keep it compressed, if you keep it submerged in your being, that's where the energy just doesn't flow. And I've had to tell clients, I don't think that we're moving forward here, and until you're ready to move forward. Once you're ready to move forward, I can provide the template your body needs to heal itself. And so, energetic imbalance is seen in people with physiological disease, psychological disease, emotional imbalances, and those disconnected from spirit can find they feel very hopeful knowing that they have the ability to return themselves to full health and wellness. And the beauty of the quantum shift, I just want to add this. The beauty of the quantum shift um, states that healing is part of the human experience, the mind, the body, the emotions, and it can be shifted to affect the entire system. So once you let go of these triggers, sometimes we feel victimized, and rightfully so. I was a child. I could not, I didn't have the power to stop this from happening to me. Uh, that can be let go in order for you to feel a release of this. And once it's released, it's no longer a part of your energy field. Okay, so that stagnant or that static piece of your being can allow energy to flow into your mind and body and spirit, and the triggers are gone. You won't have events in your environment that are triggering to you that stop you in your tracks. You will be empowered to move forward and not be afraid. This is life changing. This is huge if you can
Mhm.
reach that point. And spiritual rebalancing can heal the physical body, or emotional rebalancing can heal the psychological body. So once you start to heal the triggers and open up and you're empowered with spirit, the psychological aspects will heal and the emotional aspects will heal. This is the quantum shift.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love that we could say it, that one piece and just sets the whole train off. because I think people sometimes feel like whatever trauma or baggage or piece or whatever that memory is sitting there, it's always going to be sitting there. But we really do draw forward, like you holding the mug at the beginning today, right? And the memory of that wedding and what it meant for you and it meant for the family. Those are the pieces that you want to keep. And the other
Yes.
ones can fall away. And you can talk about them, but not with the same emotional charge. And you can intellectually realize the power of gifts that you received because of your resiliency and how you moved yourself forward. And you can transform those memories into something that becomes powerful rather than debilitating. um,
Right.
and that idea of fear. So I just wanted to bring that forward for people to realize, because if you are stuck where something keeps coming up, and I remember when I first started into this work and I couldn't walk. So, it was pretty debilitating for me just to get to somebody who could give me assistance. And for a whole year, the same topic came up every session. I went once a week, and the same topic. I'd be like, oh my goodness, how come it's still here? But then when all those residual pieces were gone, it's not even in my radar anymore. I don't even think about it. I don't realize that it's not there until I go to tell this particular story. And then I go, oh, yeah, there is that story. But it's so far gone from me that I don't have it. So I just wanted to bring that forward for people if they're thinking, well, that wouldn't be me. But our experience is how it's so transforming.
It
Um,
is. It's almost like a miracle, except we can explain it through science, which,
yeah,
you know, is the beauty of energy medicine. There
yeah,
is a scientific background to this spiritual aspect of who we are.
yeah, yeah. And we have this lovely opportunity with the medical model to be able to understand how our physical structure has changed as a result of the dissonance we've had come in. But then that understanding then just provides us and empowers us with more opportunity to realize how it can be transformed
Mhm.
at a quantum level.
That's right.
Yeah. And so it works, that there's a synergy. Because I think so much of our conversations always end up with there's this fight with the medical model. And it's only because it's created because they'd like to try to solve it from down in that cell structure.
Right.
But when you bring in this whole quantum piece, then we can empower it. We can empower the healing process to go faster, or to have less discomfort or complications. And there's just so many ways that we can make it easier.
And it will help understand the adverse effects of pharmaceuticals. Because the way they just want to treat the physiology, they don't understand, for instance, psychotropic drugs. Somebody has anxiety, and so they give them an anti-anxiety medication. Well, there's so many other molecules that go different directions energetically. That's why there's adverse effects for so many drugs. And if they understood that what's going on isn't necessarily chemical and dysfunction, it's energetic dysfunction, they they would move past the chemical solution for every disease and condition. They will, it'll broaden their horizons in ways they never knew possible.
Mhm.
And I'm not against drugs. I think if you're a diabetic, you need to take your insulin. But there are some drugs that need drugs to deal with the side effects of the drug that's treating the original condition. I mean, this is just going haywire.
Mhm.
And it's not the path to take. A perfect drug, a perfect treatment, a perfect therapy goes in and resets the system back to homeostasis and leaves without a trace. That's perfect medicine. And physics can offer that to the medical world.
Mhm. Mhm. And I'm thinking now to our conversation with the tea and the herbs, and what you and I started out with at the beginning, which is why I love starting with the cup of tea. And that is that attitude towards herbs when it's treated like a medicine.
Hmm.
And we have studied it like a medicine because our medicines come from what we've known about herbs
Correct.
and how herbs work. And some of the herbs are within some medicines. But as beings, we don't really know what the actual impetus is for that original discord that happened. And so if we say, well, chamomile, I want you to fix that. And chamomile says, but that's not even in my department. I'm nowhere near that. Then you're asking it, and then you say it didn't work. Well, it didn't work because you actually didn't know where you wanted to begin. And you were looking at putting the stress onto one herb when there's all this other stuff going on in your life that's working harder to work against chamomile. So
Right.
to have that opportunity to think about how these different herbs can lift you up, come together, work towards a common goal. And if the common goal is providing harmony within my system for healing to happen, then they can all work towards that in the way in which they're going to do it. And that's how we started it. So just trying to get people to think a little bit differently about how they want to work with that energy system and how their thought process needs to be different to do that.
Yeah, well, for the same way, you wouldn't take, I don't know, aspirin if you're bleeding, right? There's a certain frequency that the herb will emit, and it resonates with the outcome you wish to experience. So I would say the best way to connect with the resonancy of your biofield is to mm, focus on how the energetic exchange um, has an influx and an efflux. Now, how can I explain this? So, if you want a harmonic frequency, like you would hear in the orchestra, sound or light, um, connect with your five senses, okay? So, the smell of the tea, right? Does that resonate with me? The sight, what we were talking about earlier, the color of the tea, the and just touching it. Like when I picked up this licorice and peppermint, I was having a little digestion thing going on, and I touched the bag. This box has probably 12 different colors of packaging on the tea bag. This one resonated with me, and then I picked it up and read what it was about. Just touching the packaging. And I don't know if you can hear sounds in tea, but does this feel right to me? These, all these senses, these five senses will flow into your brain and flow into your tissues. Trust, trust that your body knows what it needs. And there's kinesiology and things like that that you can do muscle testing. But I just trust that my field knows what it needs. So um, I would certainly look into that. This information that you'll be picking up through your five senses is holistic and quantum in nature. Trusting that your body knows what it needs even before you do is really important. And when there is an imbalance at these points of information exchange, um, you'll you'll know it. You'll feel low energy. You'll feel a lack of joy. You'll feel a lack of motivation. You will not feel um, compassionate, like the words you use. And p people with low frequency tend to be judgmental and lack compassion. When you're balanced, you will know it. You will feel joy. You will feel compassion, and you will feel a connection to all living things. And if you're aware of how your five senses are interpreting what's going on in your field, you'll be drawn to what you need in the tea or the food you eat or the environment you allow yourself to be in. So trusting is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Trusting your instincts.
Mm-hmm. And there is there's that the frequency of trust.
Mhm.
You have that, you can drop below it or you can go above it. It's kind of like the deciding factor.
It is. And the more you practice it, the better you'll get at it. I mean,
Mhm,
there's just uh some places I just won't go. Well, like we talked about, a concert or any place that has a lot of people in it, because that's not good for my energetic field. Some people love it. They thrive in that environment. Not me. The potential for danger is too high.
mhm,
And so trust that you know where you need to be and how it should feel in order for you to stay healthy.
mhm, mhm. And that first step out into nature is such a beautiful one
Yes.
because
Yes,
you can notice how the body relaxes. You notice how the shoulders will drop, or you'll take a nice deep breath just to get the air in, that fresh air. That's the
exactly.
signal that you're in the right spot.
Yes,
And then when it's time to get back there, because you get back into the office, you notice that your breath is much shallower, and you think, okay, lunchtime, I could just work through lunch. But if you're listening to the body, if you just went for a little stroll, you put your feet in the grass, 20 minutes, that can make a huge difference for your entire afternoon rather than push through. I'll work through lunch, try to get that work done so I'll be finished in a better spot at the end of the day. And
exactly.
that's that mentality of working harder to be in disharmony than working less to be in harmony.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that work's still going to be there after you've left the planet. So why are you going to leave the planet sooner just to get more work done?
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, I think we did a deep dive today, and I hope that the listeners, I hope you found how you can reframe things and how you can realize where you might have accepted ideas because it's always been that way. That's the way the family's always functioned. That's the way work has always been. But to stop and think it doesn't need to be that way, and you can make the choice to be different. And if you choose not to go to those large group gatherings, realize how you're empowering yourself and
Absolutely.
what that gift is that you're bringing back. So,
That's
yeah,
right, Michelle.
beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you, Christina.
It's always a pleasure. I love talking to you,
Oh
with
my
you, with
goodness.
our guests.
Exactly, exactly. So, as we bring this episode to a close, I hope you feel that the subtle currents that move through this conversation and the invitation to work not harder, but deeper, to trust the wisdom of your body and the intelligence of your energy field has been enlightened. And Dr. Christina Ross reminds us that healing isn't about doing more, it's about becoming still enough to notice where energy wants to flow, where light wants to return, and where your spirit is looking for alignment. So as you come to the last drop of whatever's been in your mug today, ask yourself, where am I being called to release? And where can I invite in more rest, resonance, and vitality? All right, episode 3, we move into the musculoskeletal regeneration through frequency and field intensity. And we're going to pair that up with golden serenity tea at my end. And I know you'll be looking for what's going to complement that. So thank you so much, Christina. I'll do one more sip and cheers. I think if we seal up this conversation, that'll be great. Beautiful. Remember to go back to episode 1, where we did biophysics of cellular communication, in case you missed that part. And we ask you to connect and reflect with us. So please join us on Instagram. Could be at Greenwell Center, could be Cape Breton Tea Company. Check out the blog posts that are on the greenwellcenter.com, and then stay tuned for other releases coming out as we finish off this trilogy series and find out the impact we can have as we start to share this information further and wider. So until next time, you are energy in motion. Let it flow, let it heal, and let it guide you home. Take care, everyone. And thank you, Christina.